Second.
Oh, sorry. Okay, now we'll open this meeting. The first is approval of minutes. Any issues?
We had one change, it's been corrected.
Okay. Very good. We'll move on to department reports and presentations. Personnel update.
Yes, good afternoon. We have some ongoing recruitments, but a lot more coming up as there's been some vacancies coming up in Brian's department.
I feel like you're looking right at me.
I know there's a common theme, maybe, I don't know. But there's
Someone else
been a lot of
Who isn't?
some retirements, so a lot of knowledge leaving the city. And so, Bill Strand, Roundtree, Sam Roseberry, and then Jack leaving.
Today was his last day.
Okay.
Jack Neal?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
He took a position
I could let him.
that I would have loved to have kept him, but he had a good opportunity. So
He'll be back in 12 years?
yeah, maybe.
That's going to get some knowledge, some honors. So, then a lot of seasonal recruitments. We're able to fill, I think, 13 so far.
That's good.
Yeah, so we're ahead of last year, I believe, at this time.
How many of those are actually working right
The seasonal?
Yeah.
We might be missing some. Also, I think 6. I think we have a few more coming on soon. Within the next, probably on the 16th, we have a few more coming on. Next day parade.
Anything else? Is that it?
Not on
I'm good.
staffing
enough?
up. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Discussion and action items. So we have resolution 3163, Pierce County Opioid Abatement Council local meeting.
All right. Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. In the last committee meeting, I had a legally blonde moment and I could not figure out how to unmute myself. So I'm glad you can hear me. All right. Sorry, I have a cold, so that's why I'm not there in person. So this is basically an interlocal agreement with Pierce County and almost every major city in Pierce County. The city's already agreed to the 2 opioid abatement settlement agreements. Part of that settlement agreement is that there's an opioid abatement council that oversees or approves how we decide we want to use the funds. Basically, as long as we're using them in compliance with the settlement, it should be approved. But a part of that settlement agreement would be that there's an overseeing body to ensure that we're using the funds appropriately. So this is us agreeing to the Pierce County Opioid Abatement Council and to become a part of them. We'll have one person from the city that is nominated to be a part of that council. Spoiler, Mr. Vodopich said it's going to be me that's nominated for this. Yeah, lucky me. So basically, the city is receiving approximately $479,000 from this over a 15-year period. We have to use it for something related to opioid addiction in the community. This could be treatment, recovery, education, connecting people to care. And this was just going to be a mechanism to ensure we're using the funds in compliance with the settlement agreement. This is on for consent agenda tonight just because of the really tight timeline that we got it under to get it to go to finance and consent on the same night. Are there any questions?
I have a question. I'm fine with, there's a lot of requirements of things I don't think we normally do to help take care of these issues in our city. What are you going to be doing, or are we going to be doing differently to help solve these issues that this is going to be covering? I mean, your treatment facilities and so on are just...
So we don't have to use it for all of these issues. We get to pick and choose however we want to use it. So if we just want to pick one thing to use it on that's what we can do.
Okay, so is it going to very much come from your direction of your staff, what we should be needing the money, who's to oversee the money?
So this would still go the same process where it would go to, there would be a staff meeting. We would ask council for direction, like at the finance committee, and then we'd bring a proposal that would go to the finance committee and the council to approve it. And then it would also be approved by the opioid abatement council. So the council members would still have, decision-making process.
So
in
in the
it.
future, would we be able to do something like the Seattle is trying to put together? If they're having a problem with passing a new enforcement law for drugs and stuff, will we be able to set up some facilities to treat people here once they go through the court system?
So it can be used for treatment to set up a treatment facility, but realistically, the amount of money that we're getting per year and how much it costs to set up a treatment facility with the rent and the employment of treatment providers, I don't think we're realistically getting enough money to actually build and set up a treatment facility. I think more realistically, we could use it to transport people who are homeless or poor and don't have access to reliable transportation to go to a treatment facility that already exists in Tacoma.
Okay. Are we still using, I think it was Battlefield Addiction for some of that stuff? Are we still sending people to them or to somewhere else?
I don't think we're still using them. I haven't heard their name come up recently.
And then on the council or the Pierce County Abatement Council, I'm just curious, I'm just curious about the flow of how that occurs. Do you get direction from council first and then go to the abatement council to get it approved to say, yeah, that works? Or do you go to that council first and then bring it to us? How does that work?
I think so I'm guessing because it hasn't been stood up yet and hasn't been done before, but my educated guess is that we're probably going to have meetings as this Pierce County Opioid Abatement Council, and I'll know the other people that are appointed, and that we'll get an idea of what is getting a thumbs up or a thumbs down. But I think the general intent is that if it falls, arguably close to what's allowed under the settlement agreement, it's going to be approved. But I think flow-wise, it would go to finance, to council, to the Bonney Lake Finance Committee, Bonney Lake Council, and then to the Opioid Abatement Council. Because I wouldn't want to take it to the Opioid Abatement Council and run the risk that maybe the council won't agree on it. The feeling I've gotten from the meetings I've attended is that this is the intent of this Pierce County Opioid Abatement Council is not to be a roadblock. It's to allow people to be able to spend the money, because there's a lot of people that need this, that are dealing with addiction issues.
And I have the money set aside as restricted, so it can't be spent on anything other than whatever Dina takes forward.
So, and I'm just thinking out loud. Could this be used for, say, the community court or something like that in the future?
It could be used in connection with that program, like for treatment or for helping people get access to education, treatment, maybe even some sort of medical services. I know one of the things, a lot of people that have gone through addiction have issues with their teeth because their teeth basically rot out, and it's really sad if they get sober and are starting to get back to a more regular life, that they're missing teeth or they have teeth that are rotted out. So it could definitely be used kind of in conjunction with that for that full access to all the services that a person needs.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So are we good for consent agenda for tonight?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, resolution 3166, this is the reject all bids for the Granger Springs pump house replacement.
Okay. Good evening. Good to see you guys all here. So I last worked in Bonney Lake over at the annex. You threw a rock out the window at that old building over there. You can get music lessons now. That's where my.
You just never going in there before.
Yeah. So, but today, what I'm going to talk to you guys about Granger Springs. So, if we could run out of this building, run all those power lines, and run down those trees and go down the hillway. That's where Granger. and it's one of the big three sources for Bonney Lake. So looking around in here, I don't see too many water bottles, not that one, but those two for sure. And if you fill them up with Bonney Lake water, it probably came from Victor. So,
Victor Springs?
I'm sorry,
Or Granger?
Granger Springs.
Oh, okay.
Granger Springs, Victor Springs, and Humble Point Wells are kind of the big three sources. So, what I included in your packet, and unfortunately it's the last page, is kind of an excerpt from our water comp plan. And it doesn't have a picture, but it's got a building. So the building that we are rebuilding down there does not look like that. It is not this building. This is the new building that we built in 2003, well, that was last year. So the pump house and building was built in 1974. So about the time I was 4 years old, it was built.
Going with the bullet holes, right? Yeah.
So it's at the end of its life. And council put together about a budget of about $2.3 million, $2.4 million to rehabilitate it, move the pumps, build a new pump house, modernize it, bring it up to our current standards. RH2 put together a bid package. Engineer's estimate was about just shy of $2 million. Bids came in at 2.6, much higher, much greater than estimated. So to make it go, you really need about $3 million because you got to do construction administration, you got to test the dirt, you got to. I listed some other things in there. That's what you need basically to complete the project and meet all of our standards. So with that said, if council were to award it, you need to add to your budget by another $700,000 and not in the budget. So what tonight on the table is rejecting all bids. To follow public bid laws, you've got to reject all bids first. But looking ahead to the future, what staff proposes to you is you need to bring down the project scope. So, but the three big hitters are, again, looking ahead, this isn't tonight, is you need to bid it when it's raining. You need to build it when it's not raining so you can reuse the dirt. It's down in a hole, so you're not driving up and down the hill. You see my hand driving up, driving up and down the hill. So, and then also you need to listen to the two bidders on the costing. How can we do two of the things that we've talked to them already about is pumps and motors are long lead items. You need to give them notice to proceed after the award and give them 9 months to buy them. And have the ability in our specs to pay for it after they've purchased it. So basically it's called materials on hand. So it's not going into the ground right now, but they've got it. It's in your possession. So that's all I had to present tonight. The other two things that are in your packet was in your budget. That's in the first budget amount of your agenda bill, and also the bids that came in. That's the bid tabulations. So that's this thing, little tiny numbers. Guys, go ahead. You guys have any other questions?
What was the amount that you said we needed to have 3 million?
So to make it go, if you're going to award it, you need a little over $3 million, and that's the required expenditure right in your bill. But I'm not proposing that. What I'm proposing back is that we go back to the drawing table, shrink our scope, and try to get it closer to what you had originally.
Ryan, we talked about this before. Was that the budget we talked about? I remember talking about the building down there, replacing it. I thought that was going forward. Is that just in the budget we discussed?
So, yeah, I mean, the project's been moving forward. I'll finish it up through the end of the design and get it out to bid. The problem is we're just seeing pricing all over. I mean, inflation is really hitting all of our projects pretty drastically. And we just did not anticipate the costs had risen as much as they had from the time we originally put this budget number together to now. So that's where Ken is asking to go back and value engineer this a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Does the water from Victor Falls go down to there and then come out the city?
No.
Why is the Victor Falls in here? Victor Falls.
Right. So Victor Falls is part of your complex, part of your sources.
Right.
But what is in common with them is that they both pump to the Ponderosa tank.
Okay.
And that's how they're
I
controlled.
didn't know how
So
they.
Ponderosa tank goes down, they pump more water in there.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Is there anything?
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
Well, would reducing the scope change the longevity of the project?
No, when I mean reducing scope, I mean using the native materials down there instead of hauling in select crushed rock.
Oh, okay.
that kind of reducing scope.
Okay.
So that you're not tearing up the asphalt road that, one lane road that goes down there.
Mhm.
So that was one of the feedback we got is that, hey, you can't use trucks and pups to get it out of there because the road's so narrow. Right?
Yeah.
It's going to cost you a fortune to export all the dirt, bring in select material. And in Arch2's defense, they want to select material because those pipes, because they're so down low in our system, they operate under a lot of pressure, so they cannot move.
Yeah.
Right. So it goes back to what I'm saying. You got to build it in the summer so that you can use those native soils.
Okay.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
I understand. I didn't realize what the weather had to do with.
Yes.
And as I recall, this came to finance specifically. Rejected bids. I couldn't wait to take those.
Yeah, that's where it came from.
That's why.
Yes.
Oh, because it's next week.
Yeah.
Got it.
So it should be on, I believe it's on consent tonight. Correct. I want to say.
I don't-
Yes, I believe so.
Was it
is.
added to consent?
I thought
Yeah.
it was, but
There's a lot on there.
there's a ton.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I
There's
believe,
stuff coming off.
Might have just
Oh,
got it.
okay.
Showing.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you. Next, we'll go to Resolution 3167, authorizing the professional services agreement with Gallagher Benefit Services to provide an engagement survey and consultant services.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me. Yep. I wanted to bring this forward. This is an opportunity to get a baseline of what our employees are thinking of as far as what's positive here, what things could change. Basically, building an engagement survey and sourcing that out to, one, keep it confidential. I think employees would appreciate an outside entity to conduct the survey, so there's confidentiality, and that way they would be more honest and provide upfront feedback. We've never done an engagement survey at the city that I'm aware of, and as you see that there's a lot of employees leaving, not just because of poor engagement or poor morale, but because of retirement. And so we are getting a different workforce, younger, wide variety of employees, and so they may or may not be interested in. Well, I think everyone's interested in higher pay, but there's other reasons why people stay, and it would be good to learn what those reasons are for kind of building a baseline and moving forward with different action steps based off of what we discover. We could do this internally, a real quick survey, but I don't know if we would get honest feedback, and we would not get the benchmarking that Gallagher does with other similar cities. So that's a benefit to kind of really see what comes forward from surveying the employees and what they also provide. They provide data as well as pinpointing areas to focus on for making improvements. This is about $12,663. I came here last year, and the budget was pretty much kind of established as far as our HR budget, so I didn't have an opportunity to request that at that time. Any questions? Yes.
Well, I just have some feedback. I mean, that's pretty low price to say if we don't have to train one employee because we can retain them. That covers the cost. Or, if they say some things that we're able to correct, that allows them to be heard, sees some sort of change, and can benefit from that. I'm all for something that can provide that.
Yeah, it's a great investment. I think the cost to replace an employee is 3 to 4 times their monthly salary. That's kind of data I've seen. So you're right. It is a small amount compared to what we could do to try to sustain employees, keep them, find out what programs or what benefits that we could do to make it a place that people want to stay and also come over to here to us.
Mhm.
So it would help with recruitment too as well. Yes.
I think it's a great idea. I'm just concerned about follow-up. That was my big, in my past life, I've done this numerous times. Right, where it says, take this test, everyone goes through the questionnaire, fill it out. I come back, so you guys need to do this, this, and this, and it kind of dies on the vine.
Yeah.
You know, since I oversaw the whole facility where you're in HR, you have plans that you can make it, get some meat out of it to help you and this team do better together.
Yeah, so they do provide, besides just the survey, so there's the consultation prior to make sure we're asking the right questions based off of our culture, and then also they provide feedback to managers after the fact. So there's a limitation on how many employees will get, excuse me, to keep it confidential. You know, like if someone supervises two, they're not going to say, well, you had one employee say that. They'll bring it up one more level of management. So, but they will provide feedback on what specific managers can do based off of the responses. So action items, but we would, you know, executive level and HR would understand what those are and be able to address certain things. You know, it'd be great. They recommend a survey every 2 or 3 years. You know, it'd be great to go with them going forward, but I think we could probably handle it ourselves too if we had this baseline and we had, you know, that knowledge of what things we could focus on to improve.
I think we need, I know we need that. It'd be nice as a council, if you came back to us, just kind of an overview of what we found and we're working on, what we've gained from doing the survey too long, in general.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
not detailed.
No, I think that
These are key areas we want to work on, what we're doing.
Yeah.
And then we see the bang for the buck we're spending on it too.
Yeah.
You know, there's a few done and in the drawer.
Right.
We did it, you know, move on.
Right.
I think it's great.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I think it is important to do. Initially, I was like, that's a lot of money for a survey. But I'm guessing it's because all the other metrics. I just asked the question, why Gallagher benefits. I'm guessing you looked into a couple of different companies.
Yeah, I looked at Gallagher, and they looked at another one that is, those prices were pretty similar. The other one was a little more expensive and then had additional menu items. So I couldn't tell. I give, at what point or can we stop and or do we need to keep adding items on? So I went to the NAPELRA conference in March, and Gallagher presented their on engagement. So that was one reason I reached out to them, because I knew that they did it. So they did provide that proposal. I did meet with the David Rowley, PhD. I think he was the one that provided the presentation. And I met with the other DecisionWise, I think is the other one. And the City of Seattle had one with DecisionWise, which, I mean, they sound like a good one as well. I just felt like Gallagher I know they focus on public sector, and I'm just more familiar with them because of their presence and benefits that they have and insurance, and so they do a lot of things. That's one area that they do, and I just, based off of their presentation and discussion with the one that I met with, I felt more comfortable with their service. I mean, I think they both were pretty similar in what they do.
As long as you believe that's the right one to go with.
Yeah.
You did the research. So
Yeah.
And then what's the plan for this one? So I'm looking. This on consent too?
This is on consent.
It is.
Yes.
Okay. So there's a ton of stuff.
3 pages looks like.
Yeah. That's good. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Open committee discussion.
Nothing.
All right.
Easy for you guys.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will send you. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, appreciate it. Great job.